This is a video series exploring the functionality that Draughthub has to offer. In this video, we will talk about file storage, revision management, and integration with desktop programs such as AutoCAD and Excel. Before we begin the demonstration, I want to explain a little about how Draughthub allows engineers to work on files. Draughthub is a cloud platform which, among other things, offers storage for your files, AutoCAD, Excel, reports, etc. Let's take AutoCAD as an example. When you open an AutoCAD file from Draughthub, the app downloads a version of that file to your computer and then opens it. That means all your work in AutoCAD and similar desktop software happens entirely on your computer, with no speed penalty whatsoever. When you save the file, however, we automatically send a copy of the file back to the cloud. Moreover, every single save is stored separately, allowing you to have full access to every version of every file you have ever worked on through Draughthub. Let's say that your internet connection goes offline while working on a file opened through the platform. In that case, Draughthub will constantly retry to upload the file back to the cloud until it succeeds, so you don't ever need to worry about losing work. We also make sure to clean up the files that we download to your computer when they are no longer needed in order to avoid filling up your drive. This all means that when using Draughthub, you get the peace of mind offered by a cloud-based system combined with the speed of working on local files. There is no limit on storage and no additional costs. You also do not need to pay for your own server anymore. In Draughthub, you can store engineering files, client documentation, site photos and videos, contracts, and anything else regardless of file format or size. Now that we have explained some of the basics, let's see it all in action. In the previous video, we showed how to put together a quote and how, when the quote is accepted, to convert quote line items into actual jobs. We can access the job we created either from the quote details page or from the jobs page. Since we are already on the jobs page, we'll use this option. The jobs page has two views, either a board with columns or a table. Both views are useful in different ways. On the board view, we have one column for each possible job status. These statuses are entirely customizable since each company has its own workflow. That means you can have as many columns as you want, and they can be called anything. For this demo, we have future, work in progress, and completed. By default, our job starts out in the future column. We can click on its card to open it. The job details page displays all the essential information about a job: revisions, financials, timesheets, attachments, as well as the activity log. In keeping with our theme of customizability, we can also set up any number of custom fields to be recorded for each job, and these are displayed in the sidebar on the right. For example, one of the custom fields present here allows us to upload a PO certificate for each job. For now, let's focus on the revisions section. When a job gets created, it always has one revision. The naming scheme of this organization specifies that the first revision is called A. This is a good time to mention that all naming schemes in Draughthub are customizable. You can either use the default naming schemes for things like revisions, file names, job numbers, etc., or you can tell us what rules you want the platform to follow, and we will make it do exactly that. You can also change your mind about this after you start using the platform if you want. Each job has a timeline of revisions. Revisions allow us to maintain an audit trail of changes. Once a revision has undergone a review and has been approved, it cannot be edited anymore. If someone wants to make a change to that job after the review has been approved, they can either cancel the approval on the latest revision and keep working, or they can create a new job revision. Ensuring quality control and transparency is a key focus of the platform. Let's say we now want to create a drawing for this job. To do that, we can just click on Add File. then select AutoCAD. In the window that opens, we can specify some details for the file we want to create. The default name follows a naming convention, but we can also change it. The status is taken from the job revision, and the options here are again customizable, which in this case defaults to concept. Just like with the quotes, we can choose a template. You can have as many templates as you want. Here we have just two options, an A1 and an A3 paper size. You can also have, for example, client-specific templates if they insist that you create designs using their templates. Below this, we can choose the number of sheets we want our drawing to start with. Finally, we can choose a starting file. Let's explain the difference between templates and starting files. In Draughthub, templates tend to be blank documents which have a specific structure. For example, the paper size can differ, or you can have various title block layouts. Then, for each template, you can choose to create a library of starting files. These represent files that already have content in them and can serve as a springboard for various designs, allowing you to speed up the process instead of starting from scratch every time. For this demo, we won't choose a starting file and just use the blank template. Once the file is created, we can access it. The File Details page offers us a preview of the contents of the file without having to open it. This is particularly useful for large files or when you don't have access to the program in question, such as if you're accessing Draughthub from a tablet, mobile phone, etc. From here, we can also add, rename, or remove sheets, manage XREFs, and many other things. In order to keep this demonstration as concise as possible, we will focus on the most important functionality. The button in the top right corner allows us to open the file in AutoCAD, so let's click it. The first time we run Draughthub on a new computer, we have to install a small piece of software called Draughthub Link. Its role is to facilitate the communication between the web browser and your computer. Let's do that now. We'll click on Start Installation. I'll name this computer Work Computer, then I'll click Download. In a few seconds, I will have the installer for Draughthub Link. During the installation, I will click Yes to allow the application to make changes to my computer. Then I will click Next a couple of times, then Install. Once it's installed, I'll click on Finish, and I can go back to my web browser. As soon as Draughthub Link is up and running, the web application detects this and tells me what applications it has found on my computer. In this case, I have only configured AutoCAD and Excel, and both have been found, which means I'm ready to use them through Draughthub. I will click on Get Back to What You Were Doing and can now continue to open the AutoCAD file. Let's click Open in AutoCAD again. This time, the process goes smoothly. Once in AutoCAD, we can begin to create our design. Before we do that, though, I want to talk about the title block. Normally, you fill it out with the project information by hand. Without Draughthub, you have to type this information in quite a few places. With Draughthub, however, we don't have to do that. We leave the title block empty in AutoCAD because the information is automatically added to the resulting PDF. During the onboarding process, we create special templates in Draughthub that fill out the title blocks in a way specific to your company, with the end result looking indistinguishable from the drawings you normally produce. Now let's explore the rest of the process. I'm not much of a designer, so I will just add a simple circle to the paper space. Once I've done that, I will save the file. After saving, Draughthub Link will upload a copy of the file back to the cloud, and I am notified when it's finished. Going back to the web app, we see that a new PDF is being generated. For a small file like this, it only takes a few seconds. After the PDF has been generated, we can see that in the preview, my circle has appeared. We can also access the previous version of the PDF by clicking on the three dots next to the button labeled Download PDF. Let's assume that my design, simple as it may be, is now complete. It's time to perform my calculations. We will go back to the job details page. We can do that by clicking on the name of the job at the top of the page in a section called the breadcrumbs. It's called that because it tells us how we got to this page. Now we will add another file to the job. This time it is an Excel file. We will go with the default settings. Once the file has been added to the job, we can open it in Excel. A shortcut for doing that is to click on the three dots next to the file name and choose Open in Excel. Because now we have Draughthub link already installed, the file will open right away. In Excel, the process of working with the file is the same as with AutoCAD. We can make changes, then every time we save, Draughthub link will upload a copy of the file back to the cloud. I'll just change one cell to show this in action, then save. Back in the web app, we'll wait for a few moments to get an updated PDF, then click on Download PDF. For now, Excel files don't have a preview, so we need to download the PDF if we want to see how it looks. With that one cell edited in Excel, let's say our calculations are also done. Let's now create the engineering report. We'll click on the job name at the top of the screen to go back to the job details page. Once there, we'll add another file. This time, it will be a report. We'll again go with the default options and click Submit. Now let's open the report. As opposed to files that require desktop software such as AutoCAD and Excel, reports are filled out entirely in Draughthub. That means you can fill them out either from your work computer or, while on the go, from a tablet or a smartphone. They offer the most customization out of all the file types. Just like quotes, the layout of the page is split into two columns. On the left, we have the form, and on the right, we are shown a preview. This layout is also used by invoices and purchase orders, as we will see in future videos. You might wonder why our report isn't filled out in the same way you fill out a Word or a Google Docs file. The reason is that documents are great for reading data, but they are not ideal for inputting it. Editing documents also makes it very easy to introduce formatting problems and use non-standard branding such as colors or fonts. In Draughthub, we have separated the input from the output so as to make the most of both. This way, we can automate as much as we can and only ask users to fill in the information that absolutely needs to come from them. The report we are looking at uses a template from Alan White Design. That means all the contents of this page, both the form and the preview, are entirely customized to their workflow. When it comes to the form part, every template has its own inputs of various types, as is necessary to provide the information for that type of report. The inputs can also be linked to one another, meaning they can be shown or hidden depending on which option the users choose as they fill out the report. The preview section is also built completely from scratch to suit every company's requirements. All the fonts, images, colors, layout, and everything else you see in any report produced from Draughthub is created from scratch using our template builder. With it, we can reproduce any type of document. You just show us what you want, and we make the output from Draughthub look exactly like that. Alternatively, we can help you come up with ideas for your own reports. Let's now take a closer look at the contents of this report template. To start with, we have several text boxes that offer basic text formatting and the insertion of images and PDFs. Alongside them, there are more specialized inputs, such as the list of design standards. Instead of having to refer to an external list of standards that you need to copy each time, here you can just tick the boxes for the ones that apply. Further down, we have the risk assessment. Here we have a few important advantages over filling out a risk assessment in something like Excel. For one thing, we can set up the template so that it always has a list of items already filled out. This can help with the most common risks. In addition to this, we can add items from a searchable list of presets. This list is, of course, specific to each company and can be edited by managers or whoever you decide. Let's see how easy it is to add one of the preset items. The third option is to add items by hand. Here, the inputs guide the user as much as possible, with predefined options where applicable. At the bottom of the form, we have the appendix. This works similarly to the risk assessment, but in addition to text fields, we can also add attachments. If we want the actual files to be inserted into the report PDF, then here we can select images or other PDFs. If, however, the template was configured to only list the names of files, then there would be no restriction on file type. Let's add an appendix section. We'll call it Appendix 1 and upload a product datasheet to it. When we're done, we'll click Submit. Now that we've covered the form, let's look at the resulting document on the right side of the page. The cover, like everything else we see here, is entirely custom, tailored to Alan White Designs brand. The information we see here is collected from the site and job details. Nothing needs to be filled out by hand. Next up is the revision history. This is also automated and shows when each revision was created and approved, who it was created by, and who it was approved by. After that, we have a design certificate. This is one of the biggest time savers since it is entirely automated. It displays the details of the person who reviews this job as well as their signature. Below that, it lists the documents produced. The naming convention here, as with everything else, is customizable. At the bottom, we have a section for notes, which can be filled out via the form. The next page displays the text from some of the text fields in the form, followed by the design standards we selected before. Below that, we have a list of documents that were sent by the client and that were referenced in producing this design. To add items here, we can click Choose Attachments and just select the items which apply. For the purposes of this demonstration, I have already uploaded some documentation here. In a real-life situation, these materials might have been sent via email or may have been uploaded directly to Draughthub by the client. This is possible because we have a feature that works similar to WeTransfer and others. You can send your clients a link to a particular folder in a job, and they can upload anything there. Once they do it, you get notified and the information is time-stamped, so there can be no confusion. We'll show this functionality in detail in a separate video. I'll select a few items from this list. Next up are the calculations. The template is set up so that it automatically pulls a PDF exported from the Excel file we've just worked on. We can also have multiple Excel files if needed, and you can choose which ones should be inserted here. The preview only displays a placeholder for each such PDF we insert in order to keep the experience smooth and snappy, but once we download the report, the actual documents will be included. After the calculations, we have the risk assessment. This page is a good showcase of another feature, which is the ability to have pages of different sizes or orientations in the same document. In this case, this page is oriented in landscape, allowing the table rows to be longer. We also have automatic multiplication of the risk ratings paired with color coding. Finally, there's the back cover in a similar style to the front one. I will reiterate that both the form and the output template are entirely customizable and can suit any format. Once a document is produced from Draughthub, it can look exactly like a document you produce normally. We always aim to adapt to your workflow rather than force you to change unnecessarily. Now that our design package is complete, it's time to have it reviewed by a colleague. To start the review process, we will once again go back to the job details page. We can now click on Request Review. The message that is displayed tells us that in order to proceed, we first have to choose what authority level this job has. In other words, we have to decide whether it is Cat 1, 2, or 3. This is because within the organization, different people can have different authority levels for design and review. For example, you could say that junior engineers can only design Cat 1 jobs but cannot review anything. At the other end of the spectrum, the most senior engineers can both design and review any type of job. In this case, let's say our job is a Cat 1. Once that is set up, we can attempt to request a review again. Now the application will present us with a list of people who have the authority to review Cat 1 jobs. For the purposes of this demonstration, I will select myself. This is not what should be done in most real-life situations, of course. When I click Submit, Draughthub asks me to confirm that I indeed want to be the one reviewing my own work. We'll say OK. Now we can see that there is a review in progress for revision A of this job. We can go to it either by clicking on this blue tag or by clicking on the button in the top right corner labeled See Ongoing Review. I will click on the tag. The review page has two main sections. On the left, we see a table of contents. The first item in the list is the conversation. This displays a unified list of all the review activity across all the files in this job. Below that, we have a list of files. The reason Excel is not present here is because this organization is set up to hide it, since the calculations are already included in the report. For AutoCAD, each sheet can be reviewed individually. At the bottom, we have the report. Let's start with the AutoCAD file. I will click on Sheet 1. As soon as I do that, I am presented with the latest version of the drawing. A very important thing to mention is that this is live. As soon as the engineer makes a change in AutoCAD and saves, Draughthub will generate a new PDF and will update what we see here. This eliminates a significant amount of back and forth just to make sure you are looking at the right version of the files. As a reviewer, we can annotate the drawing with comments. We have an array of tools at our disposal: leader lines, comment boxes, rectangles, ellipses, arrows, simple lines, or freehand shapes. To help us position our comments accurately, we can easily zoom and pan around the drawing. Let's draw a leader line. I click once to set the interest point, then click again to position the text box. These can, of course, be moved later. We can now type our comment in the box. After that, we can change the font size and colors. You'll also notice that the activity log on the right side of the page now displays my comment. The engineer who made this drawing could then reply to my comment, keeping the discussion in a thread. Let's say I reply to my own comment. Comments can also be edited. When that happens, Draughthub displays they have been edited in order to offer transparency. We can also leave general comments via the box at the bottom of the page. Let's see how the review process works for reports. The main difference here is that reports are multi-page documents, so the focus is on scrolling rather than zooming and panning. We can still change the zoom level, of course. Let's scroll down to the calculations section. First of all, you can see that here we have the complete document, including any attachments instead of placeholders. Let's leave a comment on the calculations, then scroll back to the top. If this was a big report with lots of comments, it would be very difficult to make sure we've addressed them all. Thankfully, Draughthub makes this very easy. You can just click on the comment in the sidebar and the document will scroll to it. Another aspect worth mentioning is that, especially for multi-page documents, as the engineer makes changes to address comments, the contents can shift around. That means the comment may get separated from the element it refers to. To protect against this, Draughthub offers users the possibility to view the document as it looked at the moment when each individual comment was left. It's also easy to get back to the current version of the document. At this point, we're ready to submit the review. We can do that from the button in the top right corner of the page. The reason I see two main buttons here is because I am currently playing the role of both the reviewer and the designer, which is not how it would normally work. To submit the review, we have three options. We can outright approve the review, request changes, or just specify that we've left comments. Whichever one we choose, the designer will be notified right away. In this case, let's say we've left comments. We can now see that the status of the review has changed, as indicated by this light blue tag. Let's now take a quick look at the jobs page. We can see that our job has a clear tag indicating the status of the review. I can also open up the filters and say, I only want to see jobs where I am the reviewer. These filters allow us to quickly find what we are looking for. We could also filter by due date, assignee, client, site, or any of the custom fields that were defined for jobs in this organization. Alternatively, we could just type in the box found in the top left corner of the page. This will look at things like the client, site, assignee, job title, and attempt to match our query. Another way to find things is by using the global search. We can access this by clicking on the magnifier glass icon in the top right corner. Let's type Oxford Street. It immediately found our site. Now let's try site visit. Again, our job is found right away, despite the different in-letter casing. This was just a quick detour to briefly show you how filters and search work. Now let's click on our job so we can get back to the review. On the job details page, we can see that the tag on our first job revision has changed from review in progress to reviewer left comments. We can still click on it to get back to the review. Let's now say we're playing the role of the designer and we're dealing with comments. Straight from this page, we could open up the AutoCAD file to address the comments. Let's say we've done that, and now we want to notify the reviewer that they need to check again. To do that, we'll click on Notify Reviewer and select Comments Addressed. We now see that a new green tag was added to the review status. Playing the role of the reviewer again, it's time to approve the job. We'll click on Submit Review again, but this time we'll select Approve. This will trigger a series of processes in the background which apply dates, initials, signatures, and so on, and make our design package ready to be sent. We can already see in the title block of the AutoCAD file that the date has been added, as well as the reviewer's initials. Let's go back to the job details page. We can see some new changes have happened. Our revision has a green tag saying Review Approved, and everything inside it looks grayed out. That means it cannot be changed anymore. We can still open any of the files, but we can't make changes to them. We are now ready to send this design package to the client. To start that process, we'll click on the button labeled Send. The first pop-up asks us to select a job revision. This is because once we have several, we could also opt to resend any of the old ones in case the client needs them. We'll click Continue. Next, we need to choose which files we want to include in the package. Let's uncheck the Excel file since it is already included in the report and click Continue again. In this final pop-up, we can fill in the details of the email. Let's send it to contact@draughthub.com. The email already contains a default message, but we can also add to it. Let's put a little note. We can also include any project attachments we deem relevant. In this case, there are none, so we'll just press Send Email. Right away, I've received an email notification. Let's take a look at it. We can see it includes the name of the person who sent it, as well as the logo of the company, in addition to Draughthub's logo. Let's click the button labeled View Your Files. The page that opens contains the site and job title, as well as the email address of the person who issued the design package, the date, and all the files that were issued. We can either download them one by one or all at once. That completes this video. We've covered how jobs work, revisions, working with desktop applications as well as reports, and issuing design packages. If you want to learn more about Draughthub, you can watch the other videos in this series or reach out to the team directly at contact@draughthub.com.